When the sun yields to the moon, the forest transforms. The familiar world of daylight recedes and a new realm awakens beneath the silver glow. Shadows stretch and deepen and the air itself seems to thicken, charged with anticipation. The forest, once bustling with birdsong and sunlight, now hums with a quieter, more mysterious energy. Every tree, every stone, every patch of moss takes on a different character, as if the night has whispered secrets only it can share. Darkness here is not just absence, it's a living presence, thick with the scent of pine and earth. The mist curls low along the ground, swirling around roots and fallen branches, blurring the line between what is real and what is imagined. The cool air carries the fragrance of damp soil and ancient bark, grounding you in the present, even as your mind drifts into the unknown. In this darkness, your senses sharpen, and you become acutely aware of every subtle shift in the world around you. The ancient trees, Douglas firs and red cedars, form a cathedral, moonlight filtering through in shifting patterns. Their trunks rise like pillars, silent witnesses to centuries of change. The canopy above is a patchwork of darkness and silver, and as the wind stirs the branches, the light dances across the forest floor. It feels sacred, as if you've stepped into a place where time moves differently, where the ordinary rules of the world no longer apply. Even the smallest details come alive at night. Dew collects on mossy logs, spiderwebs glisten in the moonlight, and a single feather caught on a branch hints at the lives unfolding in the shadows. The forest is a tapestry of stories, woven together by the creatures that call it home. Every sound is magnified, a rustle, a snap, the pulse of the wild. The gentle brush of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the sudden crack of a twig underfoot, all become part of a symphony that is both haunting and beautiful. Each noise is a reminder that you are not alone, that the forest is alive and aware of your presence. I came seeking the elusive northern spotted owl, venturing far from any path, guided by curiosity and patience. My footsteps are careful, my breath slow, as I move deeper into the unknown. The search is not just for a bird, but for a connection, to the wild, to the night, to something greater than myself. Each step is a quiet act of hope, a belief that if I listen closely enough, the forest will reveal its secrets. In this solitude, you listen with your whole being, attuned to the wild's subtle language. The silence is not empty, it is full of meaning, layered with the soft movements of unseen creatures and the gentle sigh of the wind. You learn to wait, to be still, to let the forest come to you rather than chasing after it. But the night strips away objectivity, exposing something raw and primal. The boundaries between self and wilderness blur, and you feel the ancient pulse of life that has thrived here for millennia. Fear and wonder mingle in your chest, and you realize that to be in the forest at night is to be part of something timeless and wild. The forest becomes a stage, and as hours pass, I sense I am not alone. The anticipation builds, every shadow a possible encounter, every whisper of wind a sign. The moon climbs higher, casting its pale light on an empty clearing that feels charged with possibility. Something unseen is watching, and the performance is about to begin. In this moment, I am both audience and participant, held in the forest's embrace, waiting for the night to reveal its wonders. My name is unimportant, for in the wild, names are quickly forgotten and the forest cares little for the stories we bring. Out here, identity is stripped down to its essence, just another creature among many, breathing the same air, treading the same earth. But my years in the wild have taught me humility. The trees, older than any memory, stand as silent witnesses to my smallness. Each season spent beneath their boughs has reminded me that wisdom is not in conquering nature, but in listening to it, learning from its quiet lessons. Though age should keep me by the fire, wrapped in comfort and warmth, the call of the wild still draws me out. There's a restlessness that never quite fades, a yearning to feel the pulse of the earth beneath my boots, to hear the night symphony unfiltered by walls or windows. This journey was personal, a return to the thrill of discovery, away from cameras and crowds. I sought not recognition but the quiet joy of being present. of moving unseen through the undergrowth, of letting the forest reveal itself on its own terms. The search for the spotted owl demanded patience and immersion. It was not a quest for a trophy, but a test of my ability to blend in, to become part of the landscape. I spent hours listening for the faintest rustle, the softest hoot, learning to read the subtle signs that most would overlook. My camp, a small tent by a creek, was a fragile bubble in the vast wilderness. The thin fabric was all that separated me from the night's chill and the unknown creatures that roamed after dark. Yet in that vulnerability I found a strange comfort, a reminder of how little we truly need to feel alive. Solitude sharpens the senses, the bark's texture beneath my fingertips, the intricate pattern of lichens spreading across ancient trunks, the way the air shifts with the coming of dusk. Every detail becomes magnified, every sound a story waiting to be heard. The scent of decay and rebirth mingles in the air, a reminder that the forest is always in motion, always renewing itself. Even in the quietest moments, life and death dance together beneath the moss and leaves. I kept a journal by lantern light, sketching feathers and jotting down the calls I heard, trying to capture the fleeting magic of each encounter. These notes were my only company, a record of my attempts to understand a world that is both familiar and forever mysterious. But it also brings vulnerability. Every decision is yours alone. There is no one to consult when the wind shifts or a branch snaps in the darkness. Each choice, from where to pitch the tent to when to move, carries weight. The forest does not forgive carelessness. As the moon rose, the forest's rhythm settled around me, and I felt part of its ancient drama. The shadows lengthened, the air cooled, and the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something unseen to stir. I had no inkling that this night would bring a legend to life. The stories I'd heard as a child of rare creatures and whispered secrets suddenly felt close, as if the boundary between myth and reality had thinned. The ordinary was about to give way to the extraordinary, and I, alone in the wild, was ready to bear witness to whatever the night would reveal. The night is a symphony for those who listen, a tapestry of creak, insects, and silence. I sat motionless, recording the subtle sounds, comforted by their normalcy. Then a sharp crack echoed, a deliberate, percussive sound, not a falling branch. My torch swept the darkness but revealed nothing. Minutes later, another identical crack from a different direction. A cold knot formed in my stomach. This was no accident. The air shifted, carrying a musky, wild scent, unlike any animal I knew. My heart raced. The forest felt less like sanctuary, more like territory. I was no longer just an observer. I was being observed. My mind raced, desperate to find a rational explanation for what I was hearing. Elk, bear, maybe even another hiker lost in the woods. But as I strained to listen, nothing quite fit. The sounds were too strange, too deliberate, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Every instinct told me to run, but curiosity rooted me in place. I switched off my torch, letting the darkness swallow me whole. The world shrank to the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stood perfectly still, hoping that whatever was out there would pass me by, unseen and uninterested. Then a low, guttural murmur drifted on the breeze, a language deep and resonant vibrating in my chest. It was not the call of any animal I knew, nor the voice of a person. It was something older, something that seemed to rise from the earth itself, echoing through the trees and into my bones. Fear and curiosity warred within me. This was something large, intelligent, and unknown. I felt exposed, as if the forest itself was watching, judging whether I belonged. Every story I'd ever heard about the wild places, about things that walked upright and spoke in tongues lost to time, came rushing back. Indigenous tales of wild men, of spirits that roamed the woods, suddenly felt like warnings, not myths. The stories told around campfires, once dismissed as superstition, now seemed like hard-earned truths passed down through generations. I wondered how many others had stood where I stood, feeling the same chill of recognition. Heavy, bipedal footsteps began, thump, thump, moving parallel to me, just out of sight. The sound was unmistakable. The measured pace of something walking upright, not on four legs. It was as if it was pacing me, matching my every breath, every heartbeat. The steps were too far apart, too heavy for a human. Each print left behind was a silent testament to the size and power of whatever was out there. I crouched low, trying to make myself smaller, less noticeable, but the sense of being hunted only grew. Each footfall tightened the knot in my stomach. My breath came in shallow bursts, and I fought the urge to bolt blindly through the trees. I knew that running would only draw attention, but standing still felt just as dangerous. The whispers had been a prelude, a warning carried on the wind, urging me to listen, to pay attention. The forest was alive with secrets, and I was trespassing in a world that was not my own. Now the author of those whispers was on the move. I could feel its presence, heavy and deliberate, closing the distance between us with every step. The air seemed to thicken, charged with anticipation and dread, and it was getting closer. I realized in that moment that I was no longer just an observer, I was part of the story, and whatever was out there was about to make itself known. The musky scent grew overwhelming, flooding the clearing. Fear sharpened my senses. The world shrank to the space between me and the approaching sound. The night's symphony fell silent. Even the crickets held their breath. I wanted to run, but curiosity anchored me. This was the moment every naturalist dreams of and dreads, the encounter with the unknown. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in. I knew it was there, watching. My thumb found the torch switch. I raised the torch, its beam slicing through the darkness. For a moment, nothing. Then behind a Douglas fir I saw it, immense, over 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, covered in shaggy, earth-coloured hair. It stood on 2 legs, one massive hand resting on the trunk. The anatomy was powerful, the presence undeniable. It didn't flinch from the light, but turned its head slowly, calmly. The face was shockingly human, flat with a heavy brow and dark weathered skin. But the eyes, deep, dark, reflecting red in the torchlight, held me captive. They were the eyes of an intelligent being, not a monster, but something more. We stood frozen, me trembling with my torch and the silent giant. Its gaze was not hostile, but ancient and curious. It stepped into the light, immense yet graceful, moving silently. A low, mournful sound rumbled from its chest, a voice of loneliness. Awe replaced fear. I felt a profound sadness for this hidden, solitary creature. It looked at me one last time, then melted back into the darkness. The silence of the forest returned, deeper than before. I stood, torch still raised, the air thick with its scent. My mind reeled, science and wonder colliding. I had looked into the eyes of a myth and found a being, not a beast. The encounter shattered my boundaries of what is possible. If such a creature exists, what else remains undiscovered? Its gaze was a bridge across time, a silent connection between worlds. It was not a confrontation, but a moment of profound connection. The forest had shared a secret, and I would never be the same. As dawn broke, I returned to my tent, sleepless, replaying every detail. The owl I sought was forgotten, eclipsed by something far greater. In daylight, the world seemed normal, but the memory was unshakable. I searched for evidence, footprints, hair, but found nothing. Doubt crept in. Had I imagined it all? But I know what I saw, or at least I believe I do. The line between reality and possibility is thin. On that night I crossed it, and the forest will always remember.